Suck it, MC. Good Sunday morning and Sunday evening, whatever the fuck time of day it is. It's hot as shit, and I had to fix a building door and mow the
Oh no.
grass, and the heat index is over 105 degrees down here. So it's been a long day. I apologize. Welcome into another episode of the Park Brown Show. I'm Jacob. That's Nick. Um, Casey is still on assignment because of a rock slide. It was a rock slide. He's okay. He's not pleased. He's doing some driving. We'll see him soon. So we apologize. But thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure you're subscribed, hit that like, comment on the YouTube, interact with us live. We're live around 8, 10-ish on Sunday nights as we talk about it. And we're presented by our friends over at SeatGeek. You can go get some tickets. Use our promo code Barking Browns, all one word. Get $20 off your first purchase. Nick, how are we doing?
Well, I'll tell you what. First things first. Tonight I'm drinking because now that we're on Sunday nights, it's like we got to have a beverage or two on a Sunday night. So tonight I'm a big sour fan. Okay, so this is a Drecker brewing company out of Fargo, North Dakota, and it is a little zombie action. We've got some banana, we've got some orange, and we've got some mango. It's pretty delicious for anybody who.
It's a beer.
Sours. Oh yeah, it's sour ale. It is a double fruit smoothie sour. Double fruit smoothie sour.
Well, that's what I thought. I saw smoothie on the can. That's what I was confused when you said it was a beer. I was like,
and it looks like a smoothie. I'll tell you what. If you pour it out, it looks like a smoothie.
How is it? Very hops? Like, can you taste the hops? Is it very hoppy, or is it just
not really? No, it's
strong.
Honestly, it's kind of like a smoothie that they just poured liquor into, and that's how you go.
I might try that. That might be something I try.
It's pretty delicious.
Beer guy. I'm not a huge beer guy, but I do love like some fruity drinks.
I'll tell you what, Jacob's a huge beer guy in the Muni lot. That man comes alive. There.
You don't have a choice.
Well, if you can't see. Okay, I get that. But we've got the Heath Ledger Joker on top of the Indians 1997 All-Star Game pillow cushion there. And we have Super Saiyan 1 Goku and Super Saiyan God Vegeta over here for all my nerds out there. And we're pretty excited about that. So, building up the background here little by little here. And that Cleveland sign does light up. When we get to the darker nights, it's going to be just like you would go to Edgewater Park and see the Cleveland sign. I bought that. It's like $40 on Etsy. I was like, why can't I? Why?
You can get some like really cool artsy stuff from Etsy. Like, I love Etsy.
Hell yeah.
Like, seriously, I got all kinds of crap in my house that's Etsyfied. But the air conditioning is working in my house for anybody that cares. It's currently working very hard. It's very hot. So, piece of news this week. We'll start with this. I'm not going to talk about this a lot because I talked about it on All Eyes on Cleveland over on the OBR on Thursday night. But, Shedeur Sanders, a couple speeding tickets. One thing I've been to Cleveland plenty of times. I'm not huge in the area. One thing that I did see is somebody commented he clearly doesn't know what part of Cleveland is what now, because apparently I was told, and you can confirm this, the Strongville area is just like you should never speed in that area because there's like cops everywhere.
100% agree. Don't do it. They're waiting for you, man. They're waiting for you there. It's the Lindale of 71.
And I just want to say this. I was upset. I was concerned because 100 miles an hour it's just, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, there's just so much risk involved. And the real reason I was upset was 2 in 2 weeks. That's how things start to become a trend. And I don't want this to spiral and defeat what he's done on the field. I know you can't take a lot out of OTAs, but he's looked good. And I think he has the skill set to be a good starting quarterback if he can fix some of his deficiencies. And so, like, for me, I was actually, by the way, surprised how many people didn't think driving 100 miles an hour was everybody's like, it's nothing. I was a little shocked by that. But again, I don't think what happened with Shedeur is the end of the world. It's just, I'm a little concerned about it. And he has said, because ever since he's been to Cleveland, he said all the right things. He's kept his head down. He's been busting his ass out there by all accounts. And then he kind of has this stumble off the field. I'm like, come on, don't be another Cleveland Browns quarterback that it wasn't even about the play. It was about other stuff and that you didn't work out. I'm like, please don't let this be the beginning of a trend. That's why I had such a negative reaction to it. I've kind of cooled off a little bit on it because no one did get hurt or anything, but it's just, I wish we could go. I wish we could just not do this every year.
It's certainly the worst month of the NFL offseason to get caught doing this.
Yeah, it is.
There's nothing going on right now, and especially with the guards struggling, it's like Cleveland Sports Talk is basically just what the Browns had for breakfast. And so when you get 2 speeding tickets and you didn't show up to court the one day, even though you could pay the ticket and like it's all fine.
Yeah, I was going to say that part. I actually stopped being mad at that part because I was told it wasn't actually mandatory. So I'm like, well, if you gave me an option not to go to that court date, I wouldn't have gone either.
Right. So okay, I'm not gonna panic about this, but I'm also not happy about it. Like,
yeah, that's where I'm at.
But I'll fully admit to you, I have PTSD from Kellen Winslow Jr. assing off in the Tri-C parking lot and breaking his leg. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's I get it. Nothing happened, so I'm happy nothing happened. But on the other side of that coin, we've literally experienced that here with a high profile guy, and I know things went off the rails for Kellen Winslow later, but I'm just talking about him as the NFL player. And it's what, the 7th overall pick or something like that?
Just top half of I think it was top 10. I don't know. He was a very high pick. He had some flashes. He's actually the second most productive tight end behind David Njoku since the Browns returned in 1999. I'm doing a write-up right now for the OBR doing the all-quarter century team. So from 2000 to 2005. Okay. Working on that. I've got some positions, and maybe if we got time at the end of the show, if there's, I don't know how many people are watching. Yeah, I like that MC. He's just making people question his judgment, which is not needed. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's all it is to me. It's like and I don't. And honestly, if I had to make a put money on it, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I really don't. I think he was an idiot. Now he gets it. He's like, I gotta stop. I can't do this. I do honestly, and that's probably just the optimist in me, but that is how I feel about it. But yeah, I'll even open this up towards the end about some of the positions I'm stuck on the all-quarter century team. But yeah, Kellen Winslow, I was like, not gonna be on that list for obvious reasons. Like I'm not playing that game. We're not doing that. So we're gonna put Gary Barnidge there.
Oh, sure.
Gary Barnidge is next.
Hey, Gary Barnidge had a hell of a season, sir. What a year out of him.
He had a couple other years where he was like a 400 or 500 yard receiver. He had some other production, but he had 1,000. Was it? I'll never forget him catching the ball on his butt. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. You remember that against Baltimore? He caught it on his butt. People were like, "That's a catch." Yes, he never touched the ground. It never touched the ground. It didn't. He cupped it on the butt, and then he eventually pulled it up into his arms and things like that. But yeah, Kellen Winslow.
Who was a bigger one-year wonder, Terrell Pryor or Peyton Hillis?
Peyton Hillis at least had production outside of that 1 year. Never like that, but like he had some games in Denver before he gets, because he was more of a fullback in Denver, but like he had some games, and his second year with the Browns, like he had I don't know 500 rushing yards or whatever it was. Well, now I need to know. So now let's see. Peyton Hillis. I got to know because I don't remember. Because I remember Terrell Pryor. It was just a mess. So Peyton Hillis. So he goes for 1,187 yards or 1,177 yards and 11 touchdowns.
11 touchdowns.
Yeah. He also had 2 receiving touchdowns. And 477. He had over 1,600 scrimmage yards and 13 touchdowns.
That's insane.
And here's a number you probably didn't guess. He fumbled 8 times that year.
Wow.
I don't remember that part. But like his second year in Cleveland, 587 yards. Like he did something. Now let's look at Terrell Pryor. which his might be more impressive because he just stopped playing quarterback and then went to wide receiver.
Right. He just was like, "Yep, I am the
see.
athlete to play wide receiver, and I will do it."
So he had. Oh my goodness. I'm looking at passing stats. That's what the problem is. Because you have to get really weird.
Because once upon a time, he was a quarterback too.
Yeah. And he threw some passes for the Browns that year, which is kind of hilarious. Let me see. Trout Pryor. Wide receiver stats? Because this is not coming up.
Yeah.
This is great podcasting.
Hey, man. These are the deep cuts. These are June podcasts right here.
Yeah, if you're tuning in, you're like, okay, I want to know.
We love you.
So he gets 77 catches for 1,007 yards in 2016. And then in 4 touchdowns. Then after that in Washington the next year, he gets 20 for 240. Then he goes to the Jets. He gets 22 for 235.
Jesus.
Then he goes to Buffalo. He gets 2 for 17. So he had 36 catches the next 3 years combined before he was out of the league. I think Peyton Hillis was a little bit more productive.
I think you're right. Wow.
But if you're asking who was the if you're asking who was the biggest shocking one-hit wonder or anything like that, then it's definitely Terrell Pryor, because like he just decided to casually change positions and drop 1,000 yards. And he had some injuries and there were some contract disputes and it was really weird. But yeah, there you go.
It was such a strange, because the Browns go 0-16 that year, and Terrell Pryor just is this gem amid the nonsense.
No, that was it was 2016.
Was it 1-15?
Yeah, it was one. Yeah, because 2017 was.
Sorry about that.
Was 0-16.
Wow. Okay, there's your Browns deep cuts of the day.
Yeah, we got some Cody Kessler. It's Cody Kessler love in there.
Trust me.
Man, he said trust me, and I did. I did, dude. I was like, yeah, Hugh. I was a Hugh dude. Like,
me too.
I was not a fan of keeping him after 1-31 though. Like,
no,
I was a Hugh guy going into the hiring, and when they hired him, and even after 1-15, I was like, well, they stripped this roster down, and like I was just going, but then, especially when you consider that Triple G was able that roster that Greg Williams was the interim head coach over, and they were able to win, go 5-3 and all that stuff, and he couldn't win with that roster, and he was trying to force us to watch Carlos. I love Carlos Hyde, but Nick Chubb probably wins you more games early in that year. You maybe make the playoffs if you play Nick Chubb more.
They were damn close that year. They were damn close.
I would have loved Carlos Hyde as the number 2. That would have been great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great. Whatever. All right, so we're going to talk about offensive line tonight. We're going to talk about offensive line. Then we're going to do a fun segment at the end. We're going to talk about our top 3 comfort songs or musicians.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're gonna give you, like, if we're in our feels, if we're happy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in your feels sad. Just we're gonna talk about what we like to listen to decompress. That's what we're gonna do. These June and July podcasts, we like to talk about some of that stuff at the end. So we're gonna get into some of that stuff right there. So I look forward, because I think MC is the only person participating in the chat tonight. Thank you, MC. And if that's the case, we'll get his thoughts too. So we're gonna talk about the offensive line, and I want to start with a question that popped up over, and I'm going to bring this up on my screen over here, over on the Ask the Insiders section of the OBR website, which, by the way, if you want a VIP membership, which I think is worth it over there at the OBR, 50% off annual subscriptions. And don't sleep on this. If you get a subscription to the OBR, a year subscription, you get a free subscription to Paramount Plus.
Ooh, baby.
And I keep forgetting to activate mine. But you do if you subscribe, because CBS Sports owns the OBR, owns 247 Sports. Yeah, you'll get a
if the OBR, not that I'm affiliated, but if the OBR gains 5 more subscriptions by the next time we go live, I'll show you a very embarrassing picture of me.
I have to text Barry and be like, hey,
I'm here to support my friends, man.
We'll see what's going on here. So I got a question over there.
Yeah.
And it that I answered in our premium forums. And the first thing was the person started out saying, I know everybody's kind of focused on quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, which makes sense for obvious reasons. He said, but there's a lot of evidence that the foundation of the offensive line is quickly becoming sand. And he was showing an article that he had read. And he said, has AB done enough to protect us? Which I thought the wording made it sound pretty like a plea. Like, I was like, no. So I come up with an interesting thing. And this is where I start when I think of this offensive line, and then we'll kind of go piece by piece. Last year, the offensive line was asked to do something that two things. It's threefold, actually. A threefold issue from last year. They were asked to do things on a regular basis that they weren't brought in to do. And what I mean by that is, when you build an offensive line, you build an offensive line with skill sets that match what you want to do. And yes, you want to make your adjustments to the skill sets of your players, but they had done an amazing job marrying the system and the players. Joe Bitonio and Wyatt Teller are two of the better pulling guards in the NFL, or at least have been, maybe not anymore, but they have been, especially since 2020 in Cleveland. They had JC Treader and then Ethan Posich, where it's like these guys are good movers, good athletes. They're not necessarily a lot of power, but you do some pin pulls, some slide downs, some wide zones, some inside zones, things like that. These guys were built, even in Jack Conklin especially, also very athletic offensive tackle. And then you even bring in Jed, who was a pretty good athlete, pretty good mover. At least he was supposed to be. He was in college. He just stopped caring, which, by the way, just still surprises me because he was such a fiery guy coming out and everything. You were like, this is the dude. I just remember him tweeting at Odell Beckham, you tell me how long you need to get open. I just I remember all that stuff. Like, he was But anyway, they were brought in to run a certain scheme. Last year, they were asked to do things that their still skill set, even in their prime, was not compatible with. And you add in getting a little older, getting a little banged up, because I think pretty much all of them were banged up.
Right.
At times, there was a lot of different combinations. I think it was an offense. The second full part of this is it was an offense they didn't believe in. Even if they were like, okay, they made peace, which I'm sure they made peace with, this is what we were going to do. They didn't believe in it, and a lot of that had to do with the quarterback.
Keep in mind, we didn't take the reports seriously at the time, but at the time, there were reports out there that said Deshaun didn't look good in camp.
They're dead in the water.
Players weren't buying in,
yeah.
And there was not belief. And however you rate that, or whoever you blame on that, belief is a very large part of success.
Well, I ask you, how hard do you work if you don't like a boss, or if you don't think you're going anywhere in their job? Like, does it make you want to do your best?
No, it doesn't.
A lot of times it doesn't. And then third fold, I don't know that they liked Andy Dickerson very much. And the problem with that, it's not even necessarily a knock on him. It's, you went from Bill Callahan to him, so it's going to be a tough act to follow no matter what. When you put all three of those things together, it was like, no matter what, you were not going to get, you might have gotten okay play out of them, but you were never going to get the play that we were used to out of them. And you also went into camp with thinking that you were going to get all three tackles healthy, and none of them were healthy to start the year. I think DeJuan was the only one. In Conklin, as soon as Conklin got out there, he was great again. I was very happy about that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But you do that, you think of all of that. Now your tackles going into this are healthy. It appears to, because Dewan's been going through everything. Conklin finished the year healthy. And then I build off of that. So I think you've got an offensive line coach that I think they absolutely seem to love. And he sounds like a real dickhead in terms of coach. And those were my favorite coaches. And it seems to be the kind of coaches that like Wyatt Teller and Joel Batonia, some maulers, those guys. That's the kind of coach those guys. And it does like you could see the difference, and they don't have pads on yet, so it needs to carry over. But you can see that. So I think they more respect that, the coaching that they're getting from Mike Bloomgren. They're back in the system. Every time you talk to an offensive lineman this whole off season, they're smiling when they're talking about Stefanski's system, talking about the zone, talking about what we used to do. Right. And then I think that the depth is a hell of a lot better. I start with Tevin Jenkins, who I think is a fantastic guard when he's healthy. Had a lot of trouble with injuries in Chicago, but he can play on tackle as well. I don't know if they'll want him to do any tackle, but he can.
Keep in mind, when they signed Tevin Jenkins, there was a lot of speculation they were going to trade Wyatt Teller. That like everyone was like, well, Tevin Jenkins is a good enough talent to start at guard. They're going to trade Wyatt Teller and they're going to Brandon Ayuk or whoever.
He was one of the top guards on the market.
Yeah.
And he signed for a really low deal, so there must be at least there was some lingering injury concerns there, I think.
Right.
Then you get Cornelius Lucas, who was leaps and bounds better than anybody that played left tackle for the Browns in 2023.
James
a lot of people. And then you add in Zach Zinner, who's now a second year removed from a broken leg. I think you start to see the player that was dominant. That was an amazing offensive line in their national championship run. He was the best one at right guard. So with Tevin Jenkins, Cornelius Lucas, and a healthier Zach Zinter, I think that depth is a lot better. And so that's where I wanted to start. They've changed. Yeah. They've gotten rid of those three. They've, the scheme's back. The coach is back. They don't think they have a lame duck quarterback, at least not yet. And I don't think no matter what, I think they'll be leaps and bounds above Watson even if it doesn't work out. But that's,
cool.
And respected coach. So I think just right there, I think they're a lot better in 25.
I agree. And you know what? When the Browns took Zach Zinner, the question was, how healthy will he be? He was great before the injury. What is his status going to be? And I'll tell you what, Jacob, you mentioned earlier in this show the circus that was, are our tackles healthy? Are our tackles not healthy? So if anything from that saga, what I've learned is that you need to give players even longer than you think to get back to fully healthy. And so when we talk about Zach Zinner, I'm extending that same message to him, and I definitely am excited that he is a backup at this juncture in year 2, coming off the leg injury, and in the system. I think that's exciting. I think it's a piece that, because. So every year there's an offensive line that you see like it'll be Sunday Night Football, right? And I think last year it was the Bengals, and they'll say this offensive line has played X amount of snaps together all year, and it's some like gargantuanly high number. They just like don't have injuries, whatever. That hasn't been the Browns in recent years, but all I know is that it feels like, coming into this year, you have Jack Conklin, who came in healthy. You have Zach Zinner, who is a backup, who is coming off of a healthy season. You have Tevin Jenkins, who didn't end his season injured. You have Cornelius Lucas, who didn't end his season injured. And I know that's a low bar. I understand that.
But it's better than last year.
It's a hell of a lot better than last year. Yeah. So the overall depth of this offensive line, and Luke, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Luke Whippler get hurt a couple years ago?
He was hurt last year. He broke his ankle in the preseason.
There you go. There you go. Right. So you're fully removed from that as well. And if I'm not mistaken, Jacob, you were pretty excited about Luke Whippler.
I do like Luke Whippler, yeah.
You look,
and here's the thing about not Tevin Jenkins, but about Zach Zenner. When we're talking about offensive linemen and lower body injuries, those things they're harder for them to come back to because of all the weight and stuff that they have to go around. That's what bothers me talking about Mike Hall. Everybody expects him to be a good go at training camp and probably by week 1, but it's like I think he'll be limited for a good part of the season because of course he had to tear up his MCL in week 18 when it meant absolutely nothing. And he was starting to show some. I was like, oh yeah, I can see it. I see the vision. I'm seeing some flashes. But that's why, but with Mike Hall, he is also, I think, still only like 22. He's a freaky athlete. So if anybody can kind of make that jump, it's probably him. But with Zach Zenner, he just didn't seem to have the lower body power and drive. And it's like you're trying to get used to putting all that weight on a broken leg again. So I just don't think it was ever there. And so when you put all of that stuff together, it's like, how good are they going to be? How much better are they going to be? I'm not sure. But I do know it'll be better. And I think it'll be a decent bit better. I think they'll be they have a chance to be significantly better. Whoever plays left tackle just needs to be mediocre, and it'll be a significant upgrade over what happened to left tackle last year. And if DeJuan can't take it, that's fine. You got a veteran in Cornelius Lucas you can plug right in there. And then DeJuan could be the swing tackle, whatever it is. If Jack Conklin stays healthy, he had a great year last year, man. He's still 31? Jack Conklin's not even that old. It's 31.
He's not that old. And I'll tell you what, there were so many plays that would come up on Monday after a Sunday, and it would just be Jedrick Wills letting that dude, whoever it was, go right on by. And it was the most frustrating thing because you could see he's not even playing through the whistle. And you're just saying to yourself, this play is dead on arrival. I remember, okay, so I'm going through my stuff at my parents' house right now. My dad's about to have hip surgery, and basically they're using my old room as a recovery room for him just because it's easier. I don't know. But anyway, so I was going through all my old high school, middle school football stuff, right? And so I was just experiencing a ton of nostalgia today. And I remember one of my middle school coaches when I first really started getting serious about football said, on defense, one player can make the play. Mm-hmm. On offense, it takes an entire 11 to make the play. And I feel like that is so true. It's one of the wisest things of football acumen that I've experienced, because even if your defensive tackle slacks, right, and gets blown off the ball, if your linebacker blows up the play, it doesn't matter, right? But your offense has to work as a cohesive unit. If there's one guy that doesn't want to be out there, that isn't giving the effort that he should, the whole play is going to be blown up. The whole play is going to be blown up. And I just feel like so often that was Jedrick Wills last year, a one-man wrecking crew to the entire offensive game plan. I don't think, aside from Dwayne Bowe, I don't think I've ever seen a Brown look less interested in being out there.
Which, to Jed's credit, he at least looked interested as a rookie.
He did. And what happened? I don't know.
Dwayne Bowe was never interested.
That's true.
Last year for Cornelius Lucas, he played a total of 318 snaps at left tackle and 139 snaps at right tackle. PFF gave him a 79.1 pass blocking grade, which was 25th amongst 140 qualifying tackles. That was 12 pressures, 1 sack, 3 penalties. And you're going to be 25th. Yeah, that's how bad it was. That 25th. Now this is amongst all tackles, 140 qualifying tackles, and you're going to be like, well, 79 is pretty. I can live with that. That's almost a B. I can live with that. And that's my point. To where if Dewan's not ready and Dewan doesn't want to take possession of this left tackle job, which they are giving him every opportunity to do so. And here's the thing. He did exactly what he had to do. He dropped the weight. Not all of it. He might even drop some more. I wouldn't be shocked if he drops more between now and when they come back. Rookies report the 18th of July, and veterans report the 22nd of July.
1 month from today, by the way.
1 month from today, the whole group will be reporting for training camp, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jed drops, or not Jed, if Dewan doesn't drop more weight, because it really feels like he had kind of that moment where he really came to the realization, like, I can't. And that's gotta be that size is so hard on your joints and everything, and it was limiting his ability to move. And I've always thought he was a good athlete for being a behemoth, and that's one thing like that you would see from time to time where you would see him out. Like they ran him out a few times on like some Ohio State did on some like screen passes and things, and that man moving like as a locomotive coming to try to take your head off, like that's scary and that's really effective. And he has to get that weight back down to be able to do that. And he's done it. So, but if he's not ready, if he's not up to par, they have a quality starter that could start at either side of the line. Like even if Jack Conklin gets hurt. So it's like, I feel like there's a swing tackle where it was like both your starting tackles and your swing tackle last year were coming off surgery, and they weren't even ready when camp opened up, and they're all ready for camp this year. So you're all ready. They were so behind the 8 ball too in preparation for the offense that was already dead on the water because they had to keep floating in different tackles and things. It's like, this isn't what we're actually going to do. But if that's what you're practicing repeatedly, then that's what you're set up to do. And it just kind of sucks in that sense. Ethan Posick had a down year, and I don't know if Ethan Posick in the guards are going to be back to like 2024. No, well, not Posick wasn't there in 2020, but Posick's first year with the Browns when he was really good, and whatnot. I don't know if they'll quite go all the way back there, so to speak, but. I actually was looking at some of Joel's metrics last year. And,
really? What'd you find?
He actually had a pretty good year as a pass protector. I think what we really got lost in it. Yeah, so he was ranked. He ended up with 32 pressures on the year, which isn't great, but just the 3 sacks allowed. But like down the stretch, like the back 8 games or so, he was like the 3rd best graded pass blocking guard. Ended up with a 70.2 pass blocking grade, but he ended up with like a 59 run blocking grade, which is just not him. And it's like I just loved his quote when he was like, "We used to pool like 8 times a game. I pooled like 8 times all year." And like, if that's not a more indictment on the first thing that I said, which was this was not an offense built for them, and this was not an offense that they believed in, then I don't know what a bigger indictment is. But yeah, man, I keep looking at all these things and I'm like, I don't know that they're going to be a top 5 unit, but I don't think they're going to be a bottom 5 unit in and of itself.
I think, so the offensive line told you without telling you, but moreover, they tried to develop a new offense with Ken Dorsey, with Deshaun Watson to maximize his skills. And it just did not work. It didn't work. And so people say that it's the easy way out and that, wiping it away with that brush just absolves Kevin Stefanski. And I don't think Kevin's without blame, but no. I do think there is overwhelmingly more evidence that Kevin in his offense is effective than not. So while I think it's a failure of the coaching staff as a whole last year, I still believe in Kevin because we've seen 4 years of his offense be effective, and we've seen 1 year of a total disaster offensively. Because, I mean, Jacob, if I'm not mistaken, the 4 years prior to last year, you at least had competent offense. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. There was always they had some moments, and
Right.
especially against some better defenses that weren't great. But like, yeah, it was last year. It was like I didn't know what they were trying to do at all. Whereas at least in years past, I knew what they were trying to do. Even if it wasn't working, even if the quarterback play or whatever, like when Baker was hurt or Brissett was limited and things like that. Yeah, you could go, well, I see what the offense is doing and they're having some success. I had no idea what they were trying to do last year. I mean, I do, but you get my point. It's like I'm like, what is their identity? What are they trying to do? I don't know.
It was a weird hybrid Frankenstein of Dorsey and Stefanski, and I just don't think like I come back to the same argument of you hired Kevin Stefanski to run the offense, let the man run the offense, and I think this is an interesting opinion, Connie, that maybe Haslam was pulling the strings last season. I do think. Okay, so let me just say this: if I'm Jimmy Haslam and I guarantee this guy 200 and whatever million, I don't know how many, 200, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, what I know for sure is I'm going to give it every chance to succeed before I throw in the towel. And moreover, I think that was what last year was. It was, okay, Deshaun was good through the first through the Baltimore game, however many games he played. He was at least good, right? I don't think, Jacob, would you dispute that Deshaun was good through the Baltimore game injury last year or 2 years ago? Sorry.
I mean, yeah, it was this kind of a slow start, but I think he was fine.
He was at least decent. Okay, he could run an offense, and the offense with Deshaun last year was bottom, right? So I think that they did everything they could to try to get something out of the investment of Deshaun Watson. It failed, and Jimmy, seeing that before Deshaun, Kevin implemented a good offense, kept them, and said, okay, let's see what you can do. Let's see what you can do. And that's why I don't think they enter this year on the hot seat, because it seems like Haslam's taking a really passive approach, a more passive approach than he ever has. But I think they can make a statement this year. They can make a statement this year because if they come out again and they're good on offense, especially if Joe Flacco is good on offense again, you're going to know all you need to know. You're going to know all you need to know. So I threw away the spread today, and I bet $100 with a Steelers fan that the Browns would win week 1. Okay. And I don't care. I don't care because I'll tell you what, I think the Browns are going to win week 1. I think Joe Flacco is going to trot out there. I think the defense is going to be fresh. I think Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson are going to be a damn good duo. And I think they're going to shove the ball down Cincinnati's atrocious defensive front, and they're going to win at home. And I don't need no damn spread. I don't need it because the Browns are going to win. And I would love to circle back to this clip in 11 Sundays. 11 Sundays, by the way. In 11 Sundays, at this time, we'll know if the Cleveland Browns are 1-0 or 0-1. I'm betting on 1-0, literally.
That's it, man. That's the wide receiver review or the offensive line review. We'll continue this next week when Casey's back doing some more reviews. But before we sign out, I had some time to think about it. And I've changed how I want us to do this. I said comfort songs, but Casey and Brad did this a few weeks ago on All Eyes on Cleveland. I'm stealing from it because I thought it was really cool. You're on a desert island. Okay, see, we did this before when we did 3 movies. If you're on a desert island, those are the only movies you can watch for the rest of your life. So let's do it this way. We're on a desert island. You get 3 albums, 3 music albums, 3 CDs, 3 albums. That's all you got the rest of your life. 3 albums. What are they?
Damn. Okay, this is totally off the cuff because Jacob didn't prepare me for this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stall real quick.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the self-titled debut album of Tenacious D.
Oh, interesting.
So there's a lot of just ludicrousy on that album. It's got the best song in the world. It's got, there's a lot that I'm not going to say all of the names because I don't want to get completely demonetized. But yeah, so I would do that just because that would be the fun, uplifting, like, let's go crazy. And then one album that I just really love, and I still listen to a lot of, Luke Combs' This Is What You Get 2 Deluxe Edition. A lot of real bangers on there from What You See Is What You Get To, or this. I can't remember what that album is actually called. So because he had some albums in there that he had one album that came out, and then he had a second follow-up where it was the same album, but he added on to some stuff. Yeah, it's This One's For You 2 Deluxe Edition. That's Luke Combs. And then I'm gonna go crazy, and I'm gonna go on like the In My Feels, and the third one is gonna be Green Day's American Idiot.
Ooh, fun.
Those are the 3 albums I'd take on my desert island if I could only listen to 3 albums for the rest of my life.
I've got 3 albums for you, and I'm going to list them. But I want to at least touch on the starters real quick. Okay. DeJuan Jones, Healthy, Interested, Lost Weight. Joe Bitonio, hopefully over his back issue, still an intriguing guy. Ethan Posick, good in Kevin Stefanski's system, bad in Ken Dorsey's system.
Go ahead, finish.
Hoping for a bounce back year from Posick. Wyatt Teller, still an All-Pro. And Jack Conklin finished the year healthy finally. Definitely hoping for a good year out of him. Just want to touch the starters.
There's a lot of projection and hope that goes into this. And this is why I think I see the path for the Browns to win like 10 games or more, but it's like a lot of things got to go right. And the offensive line has got those things where better coaching, back in the right system, and healthy, those all got to be the real reasons that they struggled. And it's not just that they're not as good anymore, because if that ends, and there's a possibility that even with all of those things right this year, there's a good chance that they're better, but not a lot better. But I have hope. But okay. Take it away.
So I'll give you. You know what? Okay. So I guess I'm 35 in like less than 2 months now, and there's a stereotype that like you just stick with the music you grew up with. So I guess I am that stereotype now, because all of these songs, all of these albums, 3 of these albums that I'm giving to you right now, for me, are from middle school. And I've just never stopped. Okay. So the first one is probably something a lot of our listeners have never heard of. But it's by Streetlight Manifesto, and it's called Everything Goes Numb. That's ska music, for those who don't know. I actually just gave my trumpet literally today to Goodwill. I was a trumpet player back in the day. Loved the trumpet. Love the rock with brass instruments. That's what ska is. It's very upbeat, very excitable. Love it. Streetlight Manifesto is still a band that tours, and I see them every time I can. They're coming to Cleveland pretty soon. Number 2 is, so one of the greatest lies I convinced myself of as a youngin' was that I wasn't angry. But I used to listen to a shitload of Linkin Park's Meteora. That album to this day is just
That's a
Oh,
great
man.
album.
Anytime I hear it, anytime.
It's a great album.
And number 3 is an album, Sorry Mom, that I had to hide from her because she would have been very upset with me. And actually, true story, she did find out that I was listening to this CD, and before she could listen to it, I busted it in half because I knew that the repercussions of if she heard this CD would be much worse than me just busting it in half. But it is the Eminem Show from, I believe, 2004. And holy moly, did that, like, because before I listened to the Eminem Show, I'd never really heard like real swearing in music. You know what I'm saying? And it was like I heard this album, and it just it was
That's how Tenacious D's first album was. It was probably the same time my parents didn't know I was listening to it. It's probably about the same time. I was probably 14, 15 years old.
Yep.
Maybe even a little bit younger. And then like they're just all this swearing and having a good time. And I'm like, oh, okay, all
right. right. And that was game changer. So I've got Linkin Park's Meteora, Streetlight Manifesto's Everything Went Numb, and Eminem's Eminem Show. What do you got?
I got Tenacious D's debut album, self-titled Tenacious D's. I got Luke Combs. This one's for You Too, Deluxe Edition, and then American Idiot by Green Day.
Hell yeah. And I'll tell you what, I used to listen to American Idiot as a youngin', and I didn't really understand a lot of the lyrics. They come on now, and I hear them a lot more. Would highly recommend listening to
What you got to know about American Idiot is it is basically a novel, a novella, like, and you need to watch it, listen track 1 all the way to the end, because it's actually, each track is building off of it. Just like Holiday, the song Holiday, if you play Holiday and the way Holiday ends and Boulevard of Breaking Dreams begins, it's the same tone. It's just a shift from a more upbeat to a more slowed down solemn, but it's the same noise at the end brings it in. And then like you get Jesus of Suburbia, you get St. Jimmy and Jesus of Suburbia, and all of these things that wrap itself together there in the back end of it.
I think wrapping up on a Browns note, that MC saying this defense will again be elite if the offense can put up some points on the board and sustain drives. You know what, MC, I tend to agree with you. I think the defense is by far the more demoralized side of the ball. And when the offense can't score, you see the efforts just wane. And so I'm really curious to see, and I do believe that the offense is going to be a potent group. I'm not saying they're going to be the best offense in football. I'm not saying that, but I do think they're going to be a dangerous unit. And with that belief, I think comes a lot of good things. So I'm very curious to see if it happens. And this has been part 1 of our Browns position unit review, as we very quickly tick to July and camp and preseason and all the fun things that involve it. So if you have been here for this show in June, we love you. And if you would click that like button on YouTube and that subscribe button, we'd love you even more, because trying to really build something, you know, it's 3 guys here following their dreams, and everybody that's been here with you, we appreciate the hell out of you. So we'll probably do some giveaways in the future. We'll probably do some other fun things. Don't forget, Barking Browns on StubHub is going to get you $20 off. And we'll see what's more to come. We love you. This has been an episode of the Barking Browns Show. Nick, I'm even going to point the right way. I cheated a bit. He's Jacob. We love you. Go Browns.
Still not.